Hi everybody, my name is Terry and welcome back to this series in which we're overhauling a Matchless G3L WD. Now in this episode we're going to remove the front wheel and the forks. Now because we're taking the forks off as well, we need to jack the bike up. If you were just going to take the front wheel out, then you could utilise the front stand, which doubles as a mudguard stay here. I'm highlighting it here. But because we're going to take the forks off as well, and the mudguard stay is attached to the forks, then we need to jack it. And this isn't as straightforward as it looks, because you need to go quite a long way forward. That bash plate just underneath the crankcase is quite a good place to put a jack, and put it up from there. And then you've got 3 points of contact where the jack is meeting the stand at the back, and of course we've put some straps on as well for extra security. We'll disconnect the front brake now. There's a split pin just behind the brake operating lever. Once we've removed that, then the pin that goes through should be able to be pushed out. It's a little bit stiff, it does get dirty down there, so I'll use a pair of pliers to pull it out. On the left fork there's a nut which holds the brake cover plate to the fork, and we just need to loosen that nut. There's no need to undo it completely, just loosen it, and then we'll be able to move the brake cover plate out of the way. Now we can loosen the front wheel axle nut. Again, don't remove this, just loosen it. The only thing retaining the wheel now are the caps on each side at the bottom of the fork legs. So I'm just going to undo the tension on the 2 bolts on each side which secure it. And then once they're both loose, I'm happy because I've got this chock holding the wheel. So I'm going to wind the nuts off completely and remove the caps. Now when the caps go back on, they need to go on the same side and in the same orientation, so find some way to mark them up to make sure you don't get that wrong. The chock on my hydraulic lift is really good for holding the bike stable most of the time, but it's just an impediment once you want to get a wheel out. Fortunately I can detach it, so I'm just going to take those 2 chocks out of the way, and now the wheel is free to move. All I've got to do is just turn the handlebars a little bit to create some space, and out she comes, easy as. Now we'll detach the brake cable from its mounting point on the forks. The bottom bit just pulls off, and then we'll unscrew the adjuster which goes into the lug. And rather than having the cable getting in the way, I'm just going to disconnect the brake lever as well from the handlebar, and then take the cable away so that I'm free to work on the fork without any interference. The front brake's not been particularly good on this bike, so let's have a look at it and see if we can improve it a little bit. So the cover plate's just held on by a nut and easily removed. And if we look inside at the brake hub, the previous owner, or a previous owner, has painted it, which is not a good idea because that paint, because it's oil-based, will eventually get into the linings of the brakes. So I clean all that up with a Dremel and a brush. The 2 brake shoes are held on the brake cover plate over a little hinge and with 2 springs. If you just pull them apart and twist them towards each other, they'll come off nice and easily. I can see now that the inside of the brake cover plate has been painted as well, and some of that oil-based paint will have found its way into the brake liners, and that is not a good thing. So we'll remove the springs. On the end of each brake shoe there's also a little adjuster nut. We'll take that off, and then we'll get the brake shoe in the vise, and the first thing I'm going to do is abrade it. Now brake liner is nasty stuff, so if you do this yourself, make sure that you've got some sort of protection for your lungs. And so here I go, and I've got a compressor as well, and obviously this is going to put fine particles into the air, which is why I've got the garage door open. Now with oil-based paint, what you can do is use a burner, and you don't need to go mad with this, but a little bit of heat can actually burn off some of this oil and it brings it to the surface. But you've got to do it in a sort of a cycle, and I very much shorten this for the purposes of the video, but it's burn, abrade, burn, abrade, blow, burn, abrade, blow, until you've got a nice finish and no sign of oil at all, and that seems to work quite well. Once I'm finished here, I'm comparing one that I've done with the one that I haven't, and you can see that the shiny one wouldn't really give you much in terms of braking action. Now I'll get into the brake cover plate, and here I'm using a brass brush and some brake cleaner, and that does a good job after a couple of hours. That's nice and shiny. Now we can put everything back together. It's important to orientate this correctly, so I'm making this look like it looks on the side of the bike, flipping it over, and then that sort of oblong shaped thing, the sausage shaped thing at the top there, has got to be pointing towards the hinge. Then we'll replace the adjusters which go on the end, and they simply screw in and out to give you a little bit more pressure on the brake shoes against the cam. And then with that done, we'll put the springs back in and then bend the whole thing back onto the hinge and into the cover plate where it will stay. Now we'll put the cover plate back on with the brakes. This will just sort of spin freely until we're ready to put it into the bike between the forks. We'll do up the nut. We'll do that by clamping the spindle and then just using an adjustable span on this rather large nut to hold it down. And then with that done, we can tick off another job done. But of course we can't replace the wheel yet. And that's because we need to work on the suspension. Now, I have worked on modern forks before, but I've never done a bike this old, and so you may see a good friend of mine, Martin, in the background, who's also chairman of the local Vintage and Classic Motorcycle Club section, and he's come along to give me some advice. First of all, we've got the crown of the forks, which has got a bolt. We'll undo that. That isn't too tight. You don't have to worry about any spring pushing it off or anything like that. And the reason we're undoing this is that underneath it, it's connected to the damper rod, and this goes all the way down to the bottom of the fork, and it's down there. There's a valve which goes through the oil, and that gives you the steering damping. Now you can see that underneath this washer here, which is flopping around, I've just undone a lock nut, and that's the end of the steering damper, and now I'm just going to gently twizzle that off, and the steering damper will disconnect from the crown bolt. Once that's done, I can just let the steering damper rod drop down into the middle of the suspension, because we'll be able to access it later when we take the forks out.
So can I safely let that drop down?
Yep.
Ooh.
Retrieving it's going to be fun.
Okay. And is this where your tool comes in now?
Yeah. I'm sure that is the right one, because I've got two here.
Right. So
now we get to use a tool that Martin's brought with him, and what this will allow us to do is to push the forks out of the clamps that hold them from below the handlebars.
the idea is we're going to push it down. That.
Well, you can just tap on the end. Yeah, this arrangement's to pull it back up.
Oh, okay. So we just tap on the end.
Yeah. Reduces the risk of damaging the threads in the top of the fork.
Oh, okay. And then we should hear the damper tube drop down, or what are we pushing?
Well, the whole thing should come. Now, does it have pinch bolts? Those don't look like pinch bolts.
I think they are pinch bolts though. Yeah, can you see it's like a half?
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got to undo that.
Yeah. Fasten those up.
Now the two headlight stays that you can see me working way down here are also the pinch bolts which hold the fork in. And so before we knock the forks through, we've got to loosen these nuts.
If we just concentrate on the left fork,
yeah,
and then I won't detain you any longer than there needs to be.
No, it's okay. Wife's away. I was going to do some more ridings.
Okay, that's quite slack now. Doesn't need to come out, does it?
No.
Right.
Wow.
And with that couple of taps, we freed the fork from its clamps, and now I'm taking the tool out. We'll use the tool later to pull the fork back into the clamps, and that's why it's got a nut on the top and a washer, so it can bear down against the top of the fork and act as a puller. But for now, we're just using it to tap the fork out, so we can put it on the bench and take a look at it. And as I remove the fork and bring it around to the bench to work on it, you'll see the two rebuild kits, which I've got from ANC Classic spares, ready to go with new seals. Now I need to get the oil out the fork so we can work on it cleanly, so I remove the spring. I've taken off, just by my right hand, there's a little hole there where there's an overflow screw thing. I've taken it off, it's a good place to drain the oil from, and I'm moving the main tube in and out in order to pump all of the hydraulic fluid out. Now this next bit is especially for our American viewers. I want you to note this is about as excited as an Englishman gets when something goes very badly wrong unexpectedly.
Ooh, that looks a bit. I don't know. Squashed up at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
In fact, broken, I would say.
I would say there's two springs that called into each other. Just try and twisting it.
Yeah. I think it's one broken spring.
Yeah.
Maybe called Steve Serby.
Yeah. Well, that's a disappointment. Well, that's a disappointment.
Wow. That's properly sheared, isn't it?
Yeah. Surprising place too.
Yeah.
And so, dear viewers, on that cliffhanger, we'll leave it there while I order some spares. Join me for the next episode when we'll get on with other stuff while we'll wait for a new spring to arrive. Thanks for watching. Ride safely. See you next time.